Hi everybody, welcome back to the Chasing Psychological Safety video series. So this week we wanted to talk to you about something we haven't covered before, but something that has really come to light for us over the last few months of working with our clients and since we've been working with clients on our software, but also something that has always been part of the work that we have been doing on team development and team coaching. So this is the idea that before a team can really start work on themselves, before a team can really move forward, and in this case, work on the most important item of psychological safety, they sometimes need to release some emotional blockers. So most of the teams that we work with are either established or they're made up of a number of established teams who have come together. And that usually means that they come with some form of history that they've experienced together or individually. And something really useful and often essential is an emotional blockers session to help them release that so they can move on to more positive and constructive actions. So some of the examples that we've seen, just to try and paint a picture for you, are, gossip running through private messages, that one managerial decision that they haven't managed to get past, rumours. There's often a rumour mill running in organisations, and particularly at the moment. Lack of purpose that makes the team feel hopeless and regalvanising that. The last big change that they never got a chance to talk about what they had to let go of during. That can be a really, really big emotional blocker for teams and for individuals, and not having had a chance to talk about that. Favouritism, bullying they've witnessed or experienced, and fundamentally feeling unappreciated, afraid, or unfairly treated. Those are some of the things that we witness that teams need to have an opportunity to let go of and be heard about.
Right, so if you're a team leader and you know in your bones that there are some of those things still happening and you have that as part of what we call your human debt, then it's really important that you try and make the time and organize the space where some of that can be released. And some of the things that we've seen work for people is if you manage to organize and actually, as I said, space that feels safe and feels solid enough for people to have what we would informally call a bitch fest. Essentially, a structured moment where they can come and tell you exactly how they feel about that one or two things that have been playing on their mind. Because those things are just not going to resolve themselves. And it's very unlikely that you can capture their attention and get them focused on the bubble and on building the element of psychological safety with as much ease as you would do if you had resolved that. And so if you're already a team that's using our software, the easiest way to go about this is to literally come together and decide to type as a team action that you're setting for your next sprint that you would go through this bitch fest. If you're not a user of our software, simply make a decision that you're going to be doing it, set aside the time for it. Ideally do it before you do a team relaunch, but even if you've already done a team relaunch, for the ones of you that have done, it's never too late. It probably will help your further people work anyhow. So set aside the time and start getting really organized about or having this particular safe space where people just tell you exactly what it is that the grievance is. There are a couple of things that we're going to give you today in terms of the logistics of it, and some example of what you can hands-on do as a team leader so that you lead one of these bitch fests.
Yeah, exactly. So the structure, so how would you approach this? And as Dwayne has already said, it can either precede or be part of a team relaunch or a piece of work that you're doing with the team. But setting aside an hour approximately, depending on how long you think you need it, but an hour is a good amount of time that we would recommend. Have a Miro board set up. So Miro board's a really great tool that we're using a lot in the virtual environment at the moment. It allows people a bit of space to think, to write things down anonymously if they need to. It gives that level of collaboration and privacy that people need in these conversations. So set aside an hour, have a Miro board prepared with 4 or 5 questions that help people to frame what it is that they're going to talk about, and also giving them those sentences to frame what they're going to talk about creates a safe space. It leads them into being able to say something. It gives them a way to start speaking or writing and sharing on the Miro board, and it creates a safe space. What also creates a safe space and also allows people that moment of reflection, which is really important in these sessions. People don't often have these things to hand just to roll off the tongue and start talking about. They need a moment to breathe, a moment to think, and then a moment to reflect on what they're about to say. So give them that time. At the beginning of any session, particularly one like this, an emotional blocker session, give people that 5 minutes to think before they start writing into that Miro board and sharing with each other.
Right. And if you are the team leader that's leading this, have it prepared and then start it off just so that they get an example. I would say go really hard on your own examples. If you must dig really deep to give people authentic and really serious pieces of your own grievances, then do so. There's no way that you can go wrong by leading by example and making yourself vulnerable first and telling them something that they know is the truth. If they know for a fact you've been irked by something that your CEO has done, say it first. If they know for a fact you too have had a change you never got over, give that example. Whatever it is that they have intuitively felt you were annoyed about yourself, make sure that you include it in your example. So some of the things we would say you should attempt to phrase. So essentially on those tickets on the Miro board or whatever they are, your post-it, your wherever you put them, even if you write them down on paper or you send them to someone's house with it doesn't matter. So as long as you have the beginning of a sentence that you expect your team to carry on. And some of the examples of those would be things like, what really gets my goat is, for instance, or if I were the CEO of this company for a day, and try and keep it on the organizational level. That's something we should have maybe said earlier, because it's very likely that your team will find it a lot easier to speak about topics that are organizational than they would about topics that have to do with just your team. So phrase it that way. If I were team leader for a day, if you're more courageous, but try if I were CEO of this organization for a month or something of the sort. Then another example is to say, if I were to be really honest. So just write that down, leave it there, have them fill it in. Then if you were to say, what makes me dream of another job, what makes me think of changing jobs is, and let them fill that in. And then ask them for at least one example of something that they perceived as being unfair or okay in the last year, something that really annoyed me or something that I thought was unfair over the last year is. So if you have just those things, if I were CEO or team leader for a day, what really gets my goat is, what makes me think of another job, and if I were to be really honest, if you have just those things written down and give them the time to think about them, have them answer it, give them the examples of what you feel first, and then essentially have each of you listen to each other and feel heard, then what you're ending up with at the end of an hour or so of this exchange is ideally a cathartic release where you feel like you've said to each other what you had to say and you can move forward. I think it's really important that we don't put a lot of onus on trying to find solutions. This is not a place where we're attempting to think of the next step. Don't ask them to come up with ideas of how we can get over anything. Nothing needs to be fixed. What we need to do is just talk to each other, be honest, and open up in terms of what it is that we've been amassing in grievances. So that's the structure of a bitch fest. We wish you the best of luck organizing one, and we think it's going to be really useful for you guys going forward and producing these new results in terms of psychological safety we so need at this point. Thanks a lot for listening to us. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye.